Hello! I know a lot of you are eager to see Kazuha's second rerun. That'll be coming out very, very soon. A matter of like a day or two from me actually making this video. Not sure when you'll see it from posted. And is very curious to see what his best builds are. Now, I've seen information between both EM builds and crit
This
builds on
scenery is
Kazuha, and different
wonderful.
players have preferences
Surely
over
enough
one
to
or the other.
convince anyone to become a wanted.
Today, I want to make a video testing the overall difference of crit build versus EM build on Kazuha. I'm very biased over EM build being best, so in this test, I want to give every advantage I can to the crit build to make that show as best as possible. First, I'd like to go over both the builds I'll be using this test, starting with the crit build. Alright, so starting with his crit build. So, first, he has over 2000 attack power, a decent chunk of elemental mastery. I try to stay as close as I can to the 2-to-1 crit ratio, so he's a little bit over, so favoring crit damage. And yeah, he has no energy recharge, because I try to get as much stats I can in crit, elemental mastery, and attack, and not worry about ER. So I'm not going to be counting his sustainability with his crit build when doing this test. So that's an advantage I'm giving the crit build. Weapon. I'm going to give him a 5-star weapon. I have a Primordial Jade Cutter that he's currently borrowing from Kaching. And that's the best 5-star weapon I have that I can put onto him currently. Artifacts, he's definitely going to have 4-set VV because the 4-set bonus is OP in party, even on its own. And for stats, crit damage, crit rate, attack, and EM all on the helm. Really good crit stats with EM as change for Animo Damage Goblet. Decent crit stats, EM for attack main stat. Crit stats and attack, so feathers kind of Papega, but okay. And for flower, crit damage, attack, it's okay. Now, I don't have any constellations on Kazuha, so I can't test the higher constellations that he has. So this is C0, and most people don't have the wishes to get constellations on him anyhow, so that's fine. Kazuha is 100% perfectly usable at C0, and he's even still OP at C0. For talents, I have 8 across the board, so that's like a general level investment for characters. If you're actually seriously going to use a character, level 8's the minimal. Of course, you can go higher. Alright, next would be for the Elemental Mastery build for Kazuha. So already, I don't have him at 1000 just yet, but he's still at 964, really high EM. And also, very importantly, I have him well over 200% energy recharge. And that really helps keeping his rotations nice and smooth to make sure he always has his burst off cooldown. Especially since I don't have any constellations on him. Now for weapon, I have an R3 Zephos on him, so it gives the same elemental mastery as an Iron Sting, but it gives him and the party energy recharge based off his EM, which is very good for him. So this is this is going to be his best in slot 4-star. However, he does have his signature 5-star, which gives him even more EM and gives a party buff as well. So that would actually be a better sword than this, and I don't have that, so I can't use that in this test. For artifacts, 4-set VV, mandatory if you're doing EM build. EM, ER, EM, ER, EM, ER, EM, ER, a little bit of crit damage. EM, ER, so just as much EM and ER as possible. So even this crit stats are basically non-existent with his EM build, but that doesn't matter. I'm just going to be assuming he doesn't crit at all. Now let's get into the test. So I'm going to be doing this with the Nayaka Freeze team in the domain where you get the Gilded set and Deepwood set. Now with this domain, there is a buff where you get more Elemental Mastery onto your character based on the party's overall EM. Now on Nayaka's Freeze team, I'm using that because everybody else has like next to no EM in their builds because they are not needing EM for their builds. So they would provide as little as possible to Kazuha. But just to also show, when he's in his crit build, he's going to have 238 EM with the domain buff, and in his EM build, he's going to be 1071 EM with his EM buff. And I'm just going to offset this by assuming when I do my numbers that every single hit that Kazuha does is going to crit, rather than trying to factor in crit ratios and how much damage he's doing on average. Okay, so I'm going to start here with the crit test. So I'm going to show the run in full, and then I'm going to go over screenshots after with the numbers.
You are not welcome here.
Into the wind. Clouds high. The birds.
I'm getting sick of this. Kamisato art. Sumetsu. My apologies.
Okay, here are the numbers to start with from the crit. So when he did his E skill and leapt in the air, he did 19,535 damage on the raw E skill damage, and he did swirls for 4467. Now, swirl hits in a bit of an AoE around the targets, and you can do 2 swirls with one use of his skill, so that's 6 hits of swirl on all 3 of those. So 2 hits of swirl per target. Next is when he did his plunge. I know there's a lot of numbers here to pick out. However, I see 16,355 as the actual plunge damage from when he plunged down. He did a infusion hit of 8606, and then of course his swirls 4574 for the swirls. Now, also to note, Diona is C6 and she has 4 set Noblesse on. So she'll buff him with an extra 20% attack power and 200 elemental mastery. So that's why his swirls are doing so much, along with his 230 something that he had before, and the fact that he's running 4 set VV. So his swirls are still doing a decent amount of damage with this build. Next, be Ayaka. So this is her burst ticks, doing 16,868 per tick. Her burst can tick up to 20 times. The 20th hit is a bit higher than the previous 19, but she has a very, very high overall burst multiplier. Now her charge attacks, we're doing about 8297, almost 8.3k per hit, and her charge attack does 3 per use. And then her E skill damage when she used it was 26k, approximately. Okay, now on to show the effect from his Elemental Mastery test.
You are not welcome here.
As one with wind and cloud.
Rain outlines your. Embrace the ice.
Into the wind.
Yeah. Whirling snow. Yeah. Yeah.
So here are all the numbers that we just saw from the screenshots on the spreadsheet. I know some people are scared of numbers, but all you really need to do is look at the totals here. So Kazuha total, he does more damage on his crit build than EM build. However, Ayaka's damage, or the team damage, is going to be increased with the EM build. Now, again, to favor the crit build over the EM build, when I calculated the Ayaka total, I've only calculated 10 hits of her burst instead of trying to calculate the full burst damage. Now, this also doesn't take account of another mechanic that's kind of hidden. It's the double swirl mechanics. Now, if you have a team where you have more than one element to swirl, in this test, I only made sure the team only did cryo, so that way Kazuha isn't taking full advantage of the double swirl mechanics on EM build compared to crit. Now, a perfect example is taser teams. When you have hydro and electro on the targets, you can swirl both of those elements at once. And since swirl applies the element to nearby enemies, he'll also apply both hydro and electro at the same time, thus triggering electro charge. Another example of double swirl mechanics is he can also do overload with Electro and Pyro. And I've also seen this happen as well with Dendro reactions, even though he cannot swirl Dendro. When he swirls Electro onto other enemies that have the Quicken Aura already on them, then it can also aggravate, and he gets the aggravate damage bonus on the swirl as well. So all that would just greatly increase the EM Kazuha's damage over Crit Kazuha. Either way, you build them, whether it's crit build or EM build. The point is just to have fun. You can do either or. EM is going to be more overall party damage than his crit build, especially if you don't have his Constellation 6. Once you get his Constellation 6, things change a lot, and since I don't have that, I can't really show you the difference. But hope you have the best of luck on your wishes. Hopefully you get him early when you're 50-50.